Now joined by Rob Moseley, editor of GoDucks.com. Rob, the Ducks, obviously, now we know, are going to the Alamo Bowl. No BCS Bowl for this Oregon football team. And you've obviously already seen a lot out there on Twitter, some disappointment, some agitated fans, seeing the Ducks passed up on Oklahoma at 11th in the BCS standings, Clemson at 12th. Both those teams BCS at-large teams. The Ducks are not. There's a lot of bowl politics, though, that go into this.
Right. Yeah. The ACC and the Orange Bowl have a long-standing tie. So Clemson going to the Orange Bowl makes sense in that regard. The Big 12 and the Sugar Bowl start a tie next year under the new playoff format. So the attractiveness of Oklahoma to the Sugar Bowl makes some sense there. I think a factor in all of this is the Michigan State win over Ohio State. And I've seen some reaction thinking Michigan State winning, getting two Big Ten teams into BCS hurt Oregon. I tend to think Big Ten was going to get two teams the whole way. How that hurt was, the trickle-down effect was that Alabama went to the Sugar Bowl instead of the Orange Bowl. Had the Ohio State, Florida State national championship game happened, Alabama goes to the Orange Bowl. I think the Orange Bowl was legitimately intrigued by an Oregon-Alabama matchup and might have been willing to look past that ACC tie with Clemson, spurn them, and take the Alabama-Oregon matchup that I think Oregon fans in particular have wanted to see for a year now.
How did these guys get up for a game against Texas in an Alamo Bowl when there was that potential of Oregon-Alabama in a Sugar Bowl or in an Orange Bowl?
I mean, yeah, these guys aren't blind to the big picture. They know what was on the line. And there was some chit-chat the last couple of days. Okay, what needs to happen? This, that. It didn't work out. So there'll be some disappointment there right now. I think, part of the good news is they were off all last week. They're off all this next week with two shorter than normal practices this weekend. So by the time they hit the practice field again Friday, you got to think they're going to be raring to go to play some football again, start hitting a little bit. The passion for the game, regardless of who you're playing and what you're preparing for, will kind of be sparked there.
Why should Duck fans be excited about a matchup against Texas in the Alamo Bowl?
Yeah, it's an 8-4 Texas team. Had a chance to win the Big 12. So there's that. Came within a game of winning the conference if they beat Baylor the other day. It's all about Oregon, and I think if you start with the dramatic Civil War win, which regardless of the fact that Oregon was a big favorite going into that game, a dramatic Civil War win is a great jumping-off point going into the postseason. Then you've got this sort of surprising announcement from Marcus Mariota and Hronis Grasu that they're coming back to school for 2014. Suddenly the vibes are starting to build for this offseason, and if you can really catapult yourself into this offseason with a win over Texas, in Texas, a fertile recruiting ground, where a bunch of, Ducks have 7 players from Texas, that'll be big too. I think you could have this really good mix in the offseason of the sting of losing to Stanford, losing to Arizona, which will motivate guys, but also, they won't be hanging their heads after a loss in the final game. We're
still not sure if this will be the last game for D'Anthony Thomas and for Ekpre-Olomu. Right. You're obviously around these guys a lot. You've talked to them a lot. What's your sense? They said that they might make this decision before the Alamo Bowl now. Right. What's your sense for those two guys?
Yeah, guys have already filled out paperwork for draft evaluations, which you can request as an underclassman to see kind of where NFL scouts see you. Efo's a guy, he's widely regarded as a mid-first round pick. I asked him if Marcus returning would influence him, and he said it's great to know Marcus is going to be back, but he kind of has to make his own decision. All you could do is read between the lines in these situations. I thought after the Civil War, he sounded like a guy who was looking forward to next season. Here, that answer made me think, oh, maybe he's thinking, hey, I got to do what's right for me, and you can't really fault a guy in that situation. D'Anthony Thomas is harder to read. I mean, I think, you've talked to him enough. Sometimes it can really be hard to parse kind of what the true feelings behind his words are. And it's really hard to get a gauge on where he might go. So I have a harder time, part of me wants to say, yeah, he's definitely gone. He's got to go. He can't really help his stock that much more. But on the other hand, he likes Eugene. He's a kid from LA who fits in really well here. It wouldn't shock me if he decided he wanted one more year here too.
So it'll be Oregon and Texas in the Alamo Bowl, December 30th at 3:45 Pacific time. Rob Moseley, myself, will both be there.